Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. If you're finding this video, you probably already know that this is a two-part. This is a supplementary video to episode 101 of This Week in Tyranny, where I talked about the manic-depressive reactions, responses following elections. This video is entitled Sexual Desire and Thought Are Twin Syntropic Forces. That's an unusual title. It may come across as very philosophical and abstract, but there's a very concrete point that I'm trying to make here. And I'm going to try to make it quite shortly. It's going to be a short presentation. Just an idea that I had. To me, it's a breakthrough. So the most important, this point is important because it totally reframes our view of ourselves. To me, I really think this presentation could potentially be a breakthrough in development of the self for people. So the bottom line of it is the mental instinct and the sexual instinct are cut from the same cloth. They're really the same thing. That's my perspective, and to explain it, it's worth introducing who I am and presenting it. It just comes from studying life from a connective and integrationary perspective. I just connect things together that usually don't get connected. I'm neither certified in psychology nor am I some spiritual guru. I don't download or intuit anything. I just obtain it through investigating all the different aspects of life and connecting them. Just because I like life, I like different things about life, and I happen to have been able to experience things that are very different from each other. So it comes down to this presentation being about philosophy and psychology. Sexual desire and thought are twin syntropic forces. That's the conclusion. Let's track back and see how we get there. Beginning with the word syntropic, because we don't use that term often. Syntropic is syntropy, which is what? Syntropy is the ordering force of the universe. It's the orderly force. In thermodynamics, the actual definition of that word is it's the opposite of entropy. It's actually defined in negative. It's just a synonym for negentropy, which is negative entropy. So it all goes back to entropy, the original word. Entropy being the concept that things decay over time. They break down and they fall apart, unless there's an opposite force acting on it, holding it together. Unless that happens, everything falls into a state of disorder. This is the view held by virtually everyone. And of course, we can see it holding true in our lives. If you don't touch something for a while, then the dust settles on it. Things get dusty, and then you have to clean the dust off. If not, things are going to just become more of a mess and break down. When you have a set of puzzles and you take it out of the bag and you spill it all over the table, that's entropy. Then when you go and put the puzzles back together and complete the puzzle, that would be syntropy. Okay, that's what we're talking about. Now, my first contention here is entropy is not the law of the universe. This is a big false belief. It's not a law of the universe. It's only a general tendency of matter. It's true that the puzzle is not going to complete itself, right? But natural law actually consists of entropy and syntropy together. Cause and effect is not just an entropic force. And the fact that consequences of actions, they act back on the thing that performed the original action, that actually makes it a force of syntropy. But not by default, because if you don't understand the consequences of your actions, then you didn't actually get anything out of it. Then it's just like syntropy moving back and forth like a tennis ball. But if you understand the results of your actions, cause and effect, the natural law of cause and effect, it's actually fueling syntropy, because you're going to base your further actions on that, towards order, based on those consequences, whether you want those consequences again or not. So bottom line, it is meaning that fuels syntropy. To understand what it means, to interpret consequences correctly, that's what makes you put the puzzles together. That's what makes you clean your car. That's what makes you understand. It's you understanding the meanings of symbols and interactions on multiple levels of experience. Okay, multiple steps into the future. That is what it means to understand meaning and to know syntropy, and that is not exclusively a human thing. Okay, and I'm not just talking about dog training, right? It's syntropy is built into the universe actually, and it's not just because of stimulus response mechanisms. It's all of life. All of life has syntropic potential because all living cells, they have the potential to interpret symbols and make an actual choice, not just a predetermined biological response. There's actual choice in the universe, even in single-celled organisms, and that what I just described is called biosemiotics. I won't go heavy on that. I've talked about it in one episode before. I only make the point to show that when we think of nature, we only see entropy, but that's just not true. The universe is anything but chaos. If we just open our eyes, in fact, the amazing order and design of the universe is so miraculous it boggles the mind. We say, I guess all we can see is entropy, but then we see the design and it's incredible. So this confusion, it comes from not seeing nature's agents properly. Nature has its agents, okay? Agents of both entropy and syntropy, meaning there are ways through which it creates syntropy and there are ways through which it creates entropy. Now, the tendency of matter itself, physical molecules, is toward entropy. It's, that's osmosis, that's the way water flows downhill, it's the way trees, they lose their leaves over time, then the branches eventually fall down and everything degrades. That is what happens with physical matter. But matter is only one of the three categories of the universe. When a bird picks up its sticks and makes a nest, that's syntropy. He's reducing the entropy in his environment. He's picking up those sticks and putting them together to make something that has a function and has a cohesion and order together. That's something in the universe that's not human. It's but it is a living. So the natural instinctive life force is syntropic. Living beings use matter towards their own needs, and that is syntropic. And then the more complex human mind is syntropic. Okay, so they both take matter and use it to make something. So when I'm saying sexual desire and thought are twin syntropic forces, that is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a base natural instinct and then the very abstract, or I should say abstract, a more complex, higher order human mind, which is thought. Okay, both of those are forces of syntropy. Now, I split them into three, not two. Who says there are three categories of the universe, and what are they? The answer is, the division into three is the most direct way to organize ideas and to be able to communicate them, no matter what those ideas are. It's a fundamental thing. It's not just for the purpose of making presentations. That's actually how it works in the universe. You need three stages or three parts of something to show a connection. And after all, that's what we're doing, right? This presentation in itself is syntropy. It's semiotics, meaning the study of signs. It's the study of signs, symbols, and meaning itself. You would need three lines to connect anything back to its original point, to reflect. Like a triangle, right? If everything starts from a point, then if it moves, it creates a straight line. Then all you're working with is straight lines. You need three of them. It's the most basic polygon you can form. It's a triangle. In semiotics, Charles Sanders Peirce defined it as sign, object, and interpretant. I won't really go deep into that. In psychology, we have Sigmund Freud defining it as the id, the ego, and the superego. Neurologically, in the way we're built in our anatomy, we have the three parts of the human brain. And then narratives and novels, they require a beginning, middle, and an end. Anything requires a beginning, middle, and an end. It all comes down to this. The study of anything is a study of self. We are reflections of the universe, and the universe is a reflection of us. So when we look in the mirror and see a reflection, there are three things there. There's you, the actual input. There's the mirror that you're looking into. That actual mirror is the second. It's the physical object or system that allows you to see your reflection. It's really a storage of information. It's so interesting. So you have those two things, and then you have, of course, your reflection. Okay, it's not actually there, but that is a thing, right? Your reflection is a thing. That is the third thing, the actual result or meaning reflected back to you. And when I say sexual desire and thought are twin forces, this is what I mean. The reflections of each other. And yes, by sexual desire, I mean the sex drive itself. It's the desire that we have for physical connection. And by thought, I mean thinking itself, not unconscious mental processes like, the parts of the ears picking up the vibrations and then sending the signals to our brain that gets it translated as sound. I'm talking about thinking, that the actual movie that is constantly playing in our heads. It's the memories, the thoughts, the words, the images. That's what I'm referring to as thought. And that brings me to one of my main points. Thought is actually a desire. It's a desire to know, a desire to experience. It's much more closer to that thing we call curiosity than some automatic process, like an automatic mental computer. Thinking is a desire, just like sexual desire. It's a desire for physical connection, real connections. And when mental connections are made, they are actually solidified in the mind. They become actually constructs in the mind. That is why we use so much construction language when we talk about ideas. Mental constructs, fundamental ideas, supporting ideas, logical structure, parallel links, and connections. You might as well get the drills and the hammers out, because thinking is anything but entropic. It is very syntropic. It's about taking all of these loose materials and bringing them into something that holds up over time and is real. It is syntropy. It's about creating very real things. And that is why it is very hard to take down mental constructs. The ideas that people have established about who they are or what life is, that's really hard to take apart. So that's one side of the mirror. Desire is on either side of that mirror. It's sexual on one side, it's mental on the other side. Now, what is the actual mirror then? That category in the middle, right? And that would be the physical world. That is the world of matter. Remember, the one that tends towards entropy. And this is the stage on which the forces of life interact with one another. Okay? And I've already said the law or tendency of the natural world, the physical world, is entropy. So let's view entropy as this force that starts here in the middle and it goes outward in opposite directions. Okay? Those opposite directions are the opposite desires that we have. And I don't mean opposite as in competing, but I just mean standing at opposite ends. Okay? I don't buy the division between the id and the superego in Freudian terms. I think the point is to bring them into alignment. This is the whole point of the presentation. I don't see an actual split, that those desires that you have are that if you acted on those desires, then you wouldn't be able to live a mentally clean and a principled life. I don't buy the contradiction. They're on the same team. So when I say opposite, I don't mean competing. I'm just saying they're apart from each other. And it's actually distance from physical matter that is the cause of desire. This is the cause of desire. It's that you want something and you don't have it. If you had it, you'd be all right. But we don't have it, so we want it. So if we were connected to it, if there was actual abundance present, then there would be no such thing as desire. It would not be necessary. And of course, this is where we get to, it's sounding a little bit like Buddhism, right? That attachment is the source of suffering, right? I've heard that so many times. So that perfect middle point where there is no desire, there is no separation, it may sound ideal, but don't fall for it. The objective is not to stay there perpetually, and that is my other big contention in the presentation. It is that what the Eastern philosophies have gotten all wrong, as well as the Western, the objective of life and nature is not to achieve the state of bliss and abundance. The objective of life is a free flow of entropy and syntropy in a forward motion towards greater levels of individuation. The point of life is to experience the cycle of desire and satisfaction, okay? But in a forward motion towards more meaning. Meaning is our proverbial finish line. And really, I'm going to end that presentation there just like that. It's really, there's so much more to say, but I really want people to hear it. So I might as well break it up. I might as well chop it up. There's more to say about this. At this point, I would go into the Freudian, the id, the ego, and the superego, and then also talk about the wave-particle duality. And I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it next week. I talked about reflections. It's reflecting my show, episode 101 I just did. This presentation, of course, is accompanying that. And with that one, I'm just kind of at the same point where I'm about to talk about wave-particle duality. And I want to continue to do that. And I will do that next week. This episode was about the way elections perpetuate a manic-depressive cycle response. It was about polarity and fractured minds. I've talked about polarity here, but that there actually is no fracture there. There actually is no contradiction. In fitting fashion, I tried to connect those things, right? It should apply. That's the thing, I touch on some of the deeper psychological aspects as well at the end of the episode, the wave-particle duality, and I just kind of truthfully run out of time. So next week, I'm going to bring these concepts back. No matter what the physical, actual news topic is going to be next week. This week it was the election. Who knows what it's going to be? But really, that's the whole point. And it actually makes sense for me to end the presentation like this and to continue it in a part 2. Because no matter what the topic is, this presentation should apply to anything in the world. If what I'm saying is correct. If I'm right, the way the universe is constructed, any event or any phenomena could be viewed in terms of an inner polarity and that 3-part organization of semiotics. That's the plan. And it's 3:33 p.m. on 11/10. Of course, there is no contradiction. These are the 3 pillars, right? These forces: sexual desire, thought, and then you have the physical body. You have the ego, which that should be the main fixture, the main point of next week. Is I'm going to focus on the ego, not just the 2 forces, but the middle force. And these 3 pillars should stand together. I will try to connect that once again to whatever the topic is. Stay tuned to see if I could pull it off. So thank you very much for your time, and I hope to see you back again next week.